But we need to be cautious that what we think is not controlling, and that it is not causing us to act controlling toward others, and indeed controlling our own lives in a way that is leading to results that perhaps we really kind of don't want. And you've heard many times on Udicci now that we talk about something that came from the Oz Principle back in a book that was written in the 1990s. And it says that our experiences in life create our beliefs. And that makes a lot of sense. As we go through life, whatever it is that we see and whatever it is that we do and our experiences, we start to form these opinions. And these opinions start to drive our actions because we indeed see something from a perspective that we're convinced to be true. And we begin to take these actions that start giving us results. And sometimes those results can be positive, and we may take forward steps for many, many, many years only to hit this brick wall because we took these steps without a full understanding, or we kind of stopped listening, and maybe we stopped experiencing, and maybe we stopped valuing the thoughts of others around us and the experiences of others, and then we started closing out the relationships that are so valuable in our lives. And in doing so, we've actually created our own form of bondage. We've placed shackles on our feet and our hands that say we can only go so far because our mind tells us that what we believe to be true is so. And it's really difficult to confront those things in your life that you believe to be true and, well, maybe aren't. And it's somewhat painful to come to that conclusion because you then have to look back over your entire life and go, what did those beliefs do in my life? Where did those beliefs cause problems that I didn't see? What relationships did I have that were hindered and maybe didn't become all of what they could have been simply because I believed that what I believed was true? And now I do believe that there is truth. And I do believe that oftentimes even our motives can seem pure. But if the way that we're acting is controlling and it's keeping others from realizing their fullest potential, not only are we not allowing them to be free to become all that they're capable of being, we're actually hindering our own life because we're not allowing those relationships that are dear to us to bloom. And therefore, we don't get to enjoy the bloom of those around us. And I know this may sound a little bit confusing because it's most of us don't like to come to this conclusion that, well, quite frankly, we're wrong. And that what we've been doing is wrong. But I think that that's what we need to that we need to recognize that indeed sometimes we are wrong. And we need to stop assuming constantly that we have the right understanding. We need to start listening a little bit more and listening to those around us and drawing out of them what it is that they see. And then adding our own perspective maybe to that and even being willing to let go of that which is behind us. And for those of you who tuned in a couple weeks ago, you know that's exactly what we were talking about, was letting go. And as we begin to let go of those things, that's exactly what we do, is we start to find freedom. So with that, I'm going to bring up our co-host, new word, hostess with the mostest, Tess Padmore. Come on up here. And partner, all right, there we go. And, all right, she's taking along. What's that? No. Yep, we're good. We're actually really good. So a lot of, yeah, it's a lot easier like that. So
I'm a little disoriented.
Why is that?
Because we were sitting on the other side of the room.
I know. Today we did a filming for Ebola, the campaign over in Liberia, and we kind of thought the background over there was a little bit distracting for that message, so we had to set up here today. And sometimes it's just change is good.
No, I like the background though.
Yeah, the background's kind of cool.
Yeah, the background's cool. I just don't know where I'm looking.
There's the camera. There's the camera. Or we can look over there. We can just look over this way the whole night. We'll look that way and pretend what's going on. So it's been like a whole week since I've seen him. Did you enjoy last week?
Yes, I did.
I thought that was kind of fun.
It was fun.
I thought that Frustrate Us was enjoyable. I thought it was fun to have you and Amanda together. I don't know that Amanda knew what to do with that. That's kind of fun. She's in Nashville.
Why is that whenever someone's on the stage with me, they're not quite sure what to do?
I don't know. Well, she was like, okay, where do I go with this one? But she's such a wonderful woman.
She's really cool.
Yeah, she's down in Nashville this week, so we were going to have afternoon cocktail, but she wasn't here, so we couldn't. So no afternoon cocktail today.
I've been watching some of her videos. She's been posting some of her concerts as she's traveled around Nashville, and I gave her a name of a friend of mine, and I hope they had a chance to connect.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So
and then
really
upstairs,
nice.
David Michael Miller on the patio.
Oh, he's upstairs.
He's on the patio tonight. Yeah. So
wow.
we'll probably have to cut our show short. And that's the show for tonight.
Wow. I'm still...
You need it closer?
I'm disoriented.
So, anyways, so we'll go right into our freedom idea. What do you think from my little monologue there? What do you think? Thoughts?
I do think that I think a lot of the reflection that you talked about comes with age.
Are you saying I'm old? You're the second woman this week to tell me I'm old. My wife looks at me the other day and she goes, "You probably need to try my products. It gets rid of wrinkles."
Yeah, I saw that photo.
Thank
but
you.
I wasn't saying that. I was just saying in general. I'm just saying in general, I think that reflection comes with age. Because you tend to look back over your life and you think about the things that you might have done differently. But when you're younger, you're more impulsive. And you don't have a lot of experience.
Right.
So you don't have context. But as you get older, you have context, and so you're able to free yourself from some things that might cause you to be a little more single-minded.
How about, though, even like you're saying, the reflection? And that was something earlier today we were going to talk about with social entrepreneurship, actually. Because part of it, it's a hindrance if the only thing you see when you look in the mirror is you.
Right.
Right? And that's a weird concept to think well, what else am I supposed to see in the mirror? Mm-hmm. Right? And if we think about what's behind us, and you're like, well, that's behind. But how do you get past yourself?
I think that is extremely, extremely difficult in my younger years. And I think I still am. I was actually extremely introverted.
Okay.
Extremely introverted. In fact, I was silent. I didn't speak. I literally didn't speak unless I absolutely needed to. I think I spoke more, obviously, as I went into the workforce, because you're forced to. But even as a child, people always said she just doesn't speak.
Okay.
And that was really hard to overcome, to just actually.
Well, why? Can you look back and say why you didn't speak?
Well, I felt I tried. The only way I can describe it was I was trying to be invisible. I was taking in the world around me.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I wasn't taking in the world around me, but I think as a child and as a young person, I thought that the world was a strange place. I thought that many of the things I saw in the world just seemed odd to me, or seemed painful's not the right word, but I could just see too much. And so I tried to blend into the woodwork and just be silent while taking it all in. Now, unfortunately, what happened was when I did speak, it usually scared people because it would be something so serious like, I really don't think you should cross that street because you could get killed.
All right. Okay.
So out of the mouth of a 3-year-old, that's kind of scary.
Sure, okay. Sure.
So I only spoke when it was really, really necessary. And so it took a lot to get beyond just being in that shell and just covering myself up and opening up and letting the world in to see me a little bit as well.
I think that's exactly, it's vulnerability.
Right.
Right? We are so, I don't know, call it pride, call it fear, call it lack of confidence, call it overconfidence, whatever you want to call it, but we're so afraid of being vulnerable because of what people might think.
Right.
And yet, if we would just be able to be vulnerable, and hear what people are saying to you. I mean, particularly, you're surrounded by people who love you. Why do we not listen? Why do we think that they're going to try to tell us something that is other than good for them and good for me and good for the relationship? Why would we ever assume that when we're around people who love us, that they want to hurt us?
I don't know that we necessarily think that they want to hurt us, but I think it might be more that we feel that they don't trust our judgment, or that they don't have enough faith in us that we'll make the right decisions. I don't think that we think that they will hurt us. I don't.
So
think
we feel as though, so when we don't listen, so that's almost a pride, right? That kind of starts to speak to that pride issue, like, well, I don't think that they trust me enough to make my own good choice.
Right.
Which is, the flip side of that is, I don't trust them enough to have good judgment for me.
Right.
Right? So there's a weird kind of pride thing there. And we all have this pride, but that really is a hindrance to relationship.
It can be a hindrance. It can be, and you're right. When you talk about relationship, it's not just a matter of a relationship with your partner. It could be with your children as well, because your children have this. It's weird with your children because they want to please you, but on the other hand, they want to rebel against what you're saying. And so I think with children, the thought to keep in mind is that even though they protest, they really do hear what you're saying, and they really do take it to heart. And you may not see a reflection of that until they're much older. Until
they're later. And I think you just hit it. There's that rebellion within each of us. Right. I'm not going to do as you tell me. I'm going to do it my way because it's my life. And if you want to be a part of my life, you're going to do it my way. And everybody around you is going, well, what about us?
Right.
Are we a part of your life, or is it just you?
Right.
And it's easy to be on the other end of this camera watching this tonight going, well, that's not me. That's not me. That's not me they're talking about, right?
It's all of us.
It's all of us.
It's all of us.
And it really is all of us. And it's like, if you're sitting here hearing this right now and watching this, how do we go about exploring that? How do we go about exploring those areas that we really need to just open up and let go of so that others can be let in?
I think it's a fine line. I do think, because you mentioned a little bit earlier about worrying about what people think about us. I have been, although I was an introvert, I was very fortunate being raised by the free spirit that I was raised by, who taught me that really what other people think about you is not that important. You need to live your life a certain way. You need to do the things that you need to do, and you can't let what other people think about you be a hindrance to what you want to accomplish in life. And so I took that to heart. So through it all, through the trials and tribulations, it doesn't mean that you don't connect with people that you let into your space and you know that are really in your corner and they have good things to say. But in general, I tend to not concern myself too much about what people think about me.
And I think that there's something to be said, not to be concerned about what they think of you, but I do think you need to be willing to look at your own motives, right? Because so many people, well, I'm not concerned about what anybody else thinks of me. Okay, but what's your motive behind not caring? Right? Are you afraid of what you're going to see if you actually consider what they think? Are you afraid of what's going to be revealed within yourself if you actually take the time to go, you know what? That person, I believe they love me. I believe they care about me. Mm-hmm. Why are they saying these things to me that I'm just not willing to accept? And if we use that, I don't care what they think about me, we're really hurting ourselves.
Well, and when I talk about not caring what people think, I'm not talking about my family and my friends. I'm not
Right.
really. I'm not really talking about that core group, because unfortunately, no matter how much you fight, you care what your parents think about you.
Yeah.
You care what your family, how they feel about you. So that's not really who I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm talking about when we're out there trying to maneuver in the world.
The world, okay.
Yeah.
But keeping it a little bit more like personal though, because we're talking about like this kind of growth thing. It's like, you're exactly right. We do care what our family thinks, but then we don't seem to take those strides to necessarily go, okay, I hear you. How do I get raw? And I guess I think what we're talking about is actually the need to begin to get raw with yourself. So it's interesting because I think about freedom, and that's what we're talking about here. And I don't believe that we're ever truly free if we only live within our own thoughts.
Right. Well, you have to expand your horizons, and you. I'm a free spirit. You have to experience the world. You got to get out there, and some things you like, and some things may make your flesh crawl.
Yep. And even
and I'm not eating any bugs.
And
I don't care what anybody says.
and we talked, and the whole idea too. You have a free spirit. That doesn't mean you get to go do anything either.
No.
And that's the people like, it's my life. I'll do with it as I choose. Okay. But know that you just limited your capability of having a relationship.
Well, and the reality is none of us get to do whatever we want to do whenever we want to do it.
Right.
And so that's a lesson learned.
And if we think that's the case, we need to check ourselves.
Right.
Right? Because it's like we can live alone our entire life and then wonder why we're living alone.
Right.
Right? And I think that as I start to think about this, and where this leads to is, we went through and we were trying to talk about identifying your purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think I've started really identifying my purpose. And I was I knew my mission, mm-hmm. but I thought that my purpose, I think it is to set people free. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know that I know what that means yet. But I know for myself that I have to set my family free. I have to set my kids free. Mm-hmm. I have to set myself free. And what it was a very hurtful revelation that I had. That I came to this realization that no matter how much I thought I was caring, I was always trying to lead people according to my understanding.
Well, you can call this freeing yourself or freeing them, but it's really, you're still back to letting go.
Well, I agree. Well, the letting go piece is the letting go of the control that I was trying to have in their life.
Exactly.
Because I saw them thinking a way that I thought was wrong. And I saw them acting in a way that I thought was wrong. So no matter, I was always trying to get them back in course. And again, if for my children, I can sit there and go, well, I was trying to love them, but I wasn't allowing them to be free. I was controlling them.
It's selfish.
It's extraordinarily selfish.
It's selfish. It's not that you're thinking about what they might want or what they may
That's
need.
exactly it.
You are really dealing with your feelings about the situation.
That's exactly right.
And that's come up a couple of times in to me in these last few weeks, even just thinking about Robin Williams, when some people will say if someone commits suicide, it's a very selfish act, and but they're really, they're thinking about not what the person who's suffering is feeling. They're
Correct.
Talking about the family or the individual
the loss that
who
was left
suffers
behind.
the loss.
Right.
That's what that person is
Right.
feeling, and that to me, that's the selfish end of it.
And I think what happened lately for myself, I've been praying to understand how to be more compassionate. I wanted more compassion. Mm-hmm. And I had to get past this thing that I had to let go of, this control mm-hmm. that I was having in people's lives. And what I actually came to realize is that I was actually emotionally and mentally abusive. Mm-hmm. And that hurt. Mm-hmm. That hurt big time to realize that for many, many, many years of my life, I've been mentally and emotionally abusing my family. Mm-hmm. Not intentionally.
Right.
I didn't know I was doing it. But I'm sitting here going, wow, to your exact point, I had a thought, I had a feeling, I wasn't willing to let them in to actually experience their feelings, their thoughts. I needed them to conform to mine so that they could live in my world.
And you would feel good.
And I would feel good.
Right. Because if they just did it my way, it would be so much easier.
If they just did it my way, it'd be so much easier. And what did I do? I stopped them from experiencing life.
There you go.
And it was, for me, the whole idea of, first off, now how is that compassionate? Like, it makes me want to listen now. Mm-hmm. It makes me want to listen and understand all the things I've missed. Mm-hmm. When I stopped, because you'd be talking about something, and in my head I'm like, oh wait, she's not going down the path I wanted to go. So let me, because hey, I'm a salesman, I can do this. Hey, come on back here. I got a car for $9,999. You want this car? I know you said you wanted red, but I've got a green one, and it's just what you want. So I stopped listening because you weren't going in the direction I wanted you to go. So I'd redirect back. That's it. And for those of you watching, and you think I'm joking around, no, it's incredibly hurtful to know I did that. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful that in many cases I did it because I thought I was loving, which is the whole idea of the motive. Right? And at no time did I sit there and think, I'm doing this to hurt my child.
Right. It wasn't mean-spirited.
Right. It doesn't make it right, though.
It doesn't, it doesn't make it right, but it's different.
Yeah, it's different. It's a controlling spirit, not mean-spirited.
Right. And I do understand that, and maybe I have the same kind of personality because I don't like to feel that I'm.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about that tonight. I'm kidding.
Why?
I'm kidding. You said no. Okay. So with that, let's just kind of do a quick commercial break.
Okay.
All right. Let's go to commercial.
Okay. You threw me off. That's not fair.
I was having fun with that.
And I think this relates to Najir, and he's been accepted into Hargrave Military Academy, which is a college prep program. And I'm doing a GoFundMe fundraiser. And when we think in terms of freedom, one of the things that came to mind, we don't hear a lot about the children of parents who have been murdered. Does that make sense? Did I say that sentence correctly? My grandson's father was murdered when my grandson was 18 months old. We hear a lot about the murder victim. We hear a lot about the perpetrator of the crime.
But not the children.
But if there are children, we don't hear about what happens to those children.
That's a good point.
What happens to their lives, and what is the impact of that crime on that child. And when we think about freedom, I think of my grandson, and I worked hard to do this for him, mainly because I could see his struggles as the child of a murder victim. I could see him struggling with who he was, and I want to free him and keep him free from becoming a statistic.
Absolutely.
And I don't know any other way to do that. And it's been a tough task watching him go through different phases of his life, of in the beginning remembering his father, and then how quickly that memory is gone, then getting older and regretting that he has no memory, and then realizing one day that death is real and saying to me, I know now he's never coming back. I mean, who deals with those children? I never hear anything about that. I looked into victim programs, victims of crime programs, and I don't really see much about the children. And so, I see this as a way for him to climb out of the barrel, if you will, to bring light out of a tragedy, because he's a good kid and he deserves it. And I think we should focus more. And and I see so many different causes, and I think they're all great. Everyone's been drowning themselves in ice cubes and raising $45 million.
Picking up trash.
Picking up trash. And 50 Cent put something on Facebook today about Floyd Mayweather. If you read one page of Harry Potter without messing it up, I'll donate $250,000 to your charity. So I wrote a comment. How about you donate $210,000 for 7 years of college prep for my grandson, just so he doesn't end up being a statistic? you know. And I said, and I'm not LAMAO.
Right. Right.
I'm serious.
You know, what's interesting too is that we go back to our earlier conversation about like discipline and how discipline is almost required to find freedom. Your grandson needed the structure that you provided. Otherwise, you're absolutely right. He would have likely become a statistic.
Right.
He would have likely ended up on the street as a statistic. And you're saying he's come this far. You put him into a military academy, which is going to give him incredible self-discipline.
Right.
And through that self-discipline, he's going to have the opportunity to explore the person that he is.
Right.
And he himself, that which is within him, is going to come out. And he'll be free to be the best self
and
he can be.
And I will say that you are probably one of the few people that actually get it. I mean, I have some of his family members on his dad's side that are not on board with it. But then I see that as a selfish act on their part.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want him to go away. It's not about him going away. It's about
That's right.
It's about getting him out of the city that has the lowest graduation rate in the country. Why would you not? I mean, he's going to the top school in the country. So why would you not stand behind that and support that?
It's GoFundMe.com.
GoFundMe.com. And the title of it is Nigeria's Going to College Prep. I don't know if you guys.
All right,
can
so you'll share this on our Facebook.
I'll share it on Facebook.
Yeah, you share it on our Facebook
definitely.
and watch for that. And you know what? If you can't give, share it.
Just spread the word.
Share it and say, you know what? Character is important. And that's what we're talking about here.
That's right.
We're trying to help a young man develop into the character, the person that he can be, the best possible way that you can see forward for him. And that's what you'd be sharing in, is the investment of a child who lost his father to murder.
Violence,
To murder. And he doesn't need to be a statistic. He can be a man of integrity and of character. That's what we're going to have. So if you can't give, share.
Right.
If you can't give, share.
Share.
And we're going to come back in just a minute and do another one of those commercials. So, but actually, I think you're absolutely right. That fits in exactly where it is. For those of you who've been watching on my Facebook lately, you've seen that I've been doing this thing. It's like, what is your greatest asset? And it's actually David Day, through the Social Entrepreneur. He asked that question in a room of business people.
Okay.
And he asked the question, what is your greatest asset? And everybody had an answer. Some people thinking, well, my house, right, this financial asset. And I said a gift that I thought that I had, like a personality trait. And other people said this or that thing that thing that they can do. Right? And I do this. I'm strong at this. And he, being a professor in a former life, if you will, this life, not literally a former life, a former time in his profession. He looks around, and he kind of smiles. He goes, "Oh, really good answer. They're wrong, but good answer." and for me, being like Mr. Curious, I can't leave that alone. Right? I'm like, okay. If those are wrong, what is? And I thought about it for days, and then I texted him. And before I even I texted him, then I went to Facebook, and I'm like, character, your character is the greatest asset you will ever have. And people need to understand that character is more than just integrity, but it is integrity.
Right.
It's more than just self-discipline. It's more than all of that. But your character truly is the greatest asset you will ever have.
Right.
And we will never realize our true character until we stop trying to control ourselves with the beliefs that we created when we weren't our best character.
Right.
Jump in here.
Well, and I am gonna still relate it to my grandson. Absolutely. Because he is a kid of great character. And the two schools that accepted him, it was not because of his grades. It was not because of his grades. It was a result of the interviews and what he was able to show of his character. And so they saw something in this child that said, we need him. We can free him. We can open him up.
And how do you become the best schools in our country, if not by trying to choose the best students available.
And it's just so perfect that you said that, because there were three schools that we dealt with. In one school, the first school just said, we'll give you X amount of dollars. They didn't even ask his name. The second school assigned someone. The third school where he's going, the first phone call, they said, tell me about your grandson. And they spoke to me for 2 hours.
That's it, right? That's it.
Who is this person?
Because
what is their character?
Who is the person?
Are they compassionate? Who are they?
And that's the thing that's been on my heart and on my mind the past 2 weeks since I've had this revelation. And it is, again, something that David Day said, but I'm borrowing it, I'm stealing it, I'm claiming it as mine. Sorry, David, I've said it 3 times, it's mine. It is not about what you do. It is about who you are.
Right.
And who you are has far greater value than anything you could do. But if we don't allow people to fully become their best, if we control them, the best they'll ever become is the wretched version of myself.
Exactly. Because they're not being true to themselves.
Right.
And there's this great title to this film I saw as a child, and it was called "Let No Man Write My Epitaph."
Interesting.
And it was with James Darren and Shelley Winters, and his mom was a drinker and hanging around with gamblers and all that, but he had an opportunity to become a pianist, and so he had to literally escape from his mother. His mother had to let him go, because if he stayed there, he could not become the man that he could be, the potential of being who he could be. And quite honestly, I think people can see your character.
I agree.
They can see your character, regardless of how you see yourself.
They can see
good
it.
or bad. I think people can see your character.
I agree. It's interesting. You're right. You can see it even before you experience it in some ways. And I guess I want to make just kind of one thing clear here. It's not that we're saying you have to let people be themselves.
No,
because if you just let your grandson be himself, he'd be the statistic.
He wouldn't do any homework. He'd just play video games and all that.
Because that rebellious nature, and that's the thing, if we embrace that rebellious nature, we're going to become that statistic. Right. We're going to become the one who's lonely. We're going to be the one that their only way that they can get attention in life is by hurting others.
Right.
It's like they're just refusing to become their best self because they don't want to acknowledge that piece over there that hurts.
Right. That you have to come. You're exactly right. You have to come to grips with your pain.
And that's a tough thing to come to.
It's a hard thing to deal with.
And what I guess I want people to know is that when you feel that pain, but you do it because you have hope for better, that pain is
healing. It's healing.
It's there's like joy to it.
It's healing. It's cathartic. It's self-realization. All those little buzzwords.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Therapy.
I guess. Well, and that's it, right? But no, and what they really are, good friends.
Right.
Good people around you who are willing to say, "Hi there." Yeah, we kind of changed sides tonight.
Different.
Yeah, we had a little stuff earlier today, so we changed sides. So you guys will be over here tonight.
Nice. Hey, listen, change is good sometimes.
It is.
It's a different background.
It is. It's a different background. It's a different background right now. It's fun.
Nice.
So, but yeah. So I guess that's the thing I want people to know is that, if you're willing to confront that person in the mirror, if you're willing to sit there and go, you know what it was for me, and I'm going to step aside. You know what it was for me? And I literally prayed. I was like, God, please show me, because in the Bible it says don't grieve the Holy Spirit. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I have no idea. He said, please show me every time that you're grieved what that means. And I was driving down the road with my wife, and she said, in a matter of a 2-hour span, she said like 3 things that just upset me. And each and every time I got upset, I was like, why am I upset? And it just instantly, why am I upset? Why? And every single time it came back to, because you wanted something else. You wanted a different response. You wanted her to act this way. It just hit me like a ton of bricks.
Right.
So I'd say to people, it's like, you know what? When you find those places where you just get all depressed and get down, ask yourself, why are you down? What is it? Is the world not acting the way you think it should? You know, when somebody upsets you or somebody frustrates you, ask yourself, why? And if the answer comes back to because I want, or because I think, or because I, check yourself. And know it's okay. It's okay. And honestly, just go out and ask for forgiveness. Just do it. Go to people, I'm sorry, I did this. I'm sorry. The healing power of sorry.
It's healing, and it's also if you recognize that you're a person who likes to be in control. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but if you recognize that in yourself, if you recognize that in yourself, it's a hard thing to sort of deal with.
It is.
You know, it's like, I want to be in control of this. And if I'm not in control of it, then things won't go the way I want them to go. And I want them to go that way.
And there's a lot of, it's probably interesting. I bet you we're almost half and half. People who want to control and people who are like, I don't want to have to make a single decision in my life.
I know.
Right?
Here, you do it all.
Right. You do it all, but then they're miserable when it doesn't work out their way.
Yes.
Take some responsibility. Right?
Don't be passive aggressive.
And ultimately speaking, that's what we're talking about here is taking responsibility, or as we've said, take ownership for your own life. Take ownership of it. Not like it's my life and I'm going to do as I please. How about it's my life and I'm going to love the best that I can. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to sacrifice my own wants for the good of others, right? And because that is how you go from, you know.
And if I don't agree with something positive, to the naysayers and my grandson's family, if you don't agree with something that's positive and you don't want to get on board, then move out the way.
That's it.
Then move out the way.
And like, look, if you think, if they think they're hurting your son, that your grandson, that's one thing. But come on, how? Like, you know what? Really, ask yourself, is it about you or is it about what is best for the child? And don't get me wrong, we all understand.
Right.
Nobody wants our children to be away from us. I mean, our daughter just came home from Haiti. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, my daughter just came home from Haiti. I'll tell you what. Let's talk about Haiti after we talk a little bit. Let's do another commercial here.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds
so
good.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm prepping you for another commercial.
GoFundMe. Nigeria's going to college prep on Saturday. Hargrave Military Academy, and he will be there for 7 years, from 7th grade through the first 2 years of college. And once he graduates after those 2 years, he will be accepted automatically, at least into 5 different colleges.
Wow.
And 99% of the students who graduate from that school go on to college, and only about 1% go into the military. So it really is about college prep. It really is about preparing him for life. And so we need your help, because it is expensive. And our little angel, we're going to miss him. I told the admissions council he'll probably have to drag me off of his leg at 1:30. At 1:30, they're taken away from their families and they get their hair cut.
Oh, and it begins
and their uniform issue. So, and we won't see him again until November.
Wow.
Until Thanksgiving. Thank goodness for Skype.
Wow.
So we do need your help. Go to GoFundMe. We'll post it on the website, on the Facebook page. But it's Nigeria's going to college prep, so help us out.
So while he's there, you can't see him until November. He comes home for the holidays. When he goes back, is there a point in time where you guys can go visit him and see him?
They do have open weekends, but it's in Virginia.
Okay.
So to go for one day
is a little bit much.
Is a little bit much.
We actually looked at the Citadel, where my son was looking at going to the Citadel. So I mean, from a college standpoint, kind of get it. And you're absolutely right. This is not easy. This is not easy for this.
It's not.
And that's kind of the point. For anybody in your family who thinks that this is an easy decision for you to say this is what should happen,
I was in the delivery room with him.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's like, no, you just believe that this is what's best for him.
I told the school, I said, I can love him, I can feed him, I can give him safe harbor. There are many things I can give him, but I feel I can't teach him how to be a man.
Sure.
I can teach him how to be a good person, but there are things that he needs in his life before he turns 16.
Absolutely.
Before he hits the teen years.
And quite frankly, and
before the teen years.
this is what I say this. I know it to be true, and it's society says the white guy behind the camera shouldn't be saying this. Here's the reality: if he stays in the neighborhood that he's in between now and the time he graduates, or probably doesn't graduate from high school, he's going to be influenced by some streets of Rochester that you don't want him influenced by.
Right.
It's not good what's going on in our city right now. We're the second poorest in our country, and poverty takes its toll across the board. And I gotta say, and thank you God that he's not going to be one of them. We're declaring that, but we know that many young men his age would be out selling drugs, because that's what they're being shown on the streets, is how they care for their families.
Or they would be dead.
Or they'd be dead. And
his dad was only 22 years old. He was still growing. He looked like he was 12.
Yeah.
He looked like he was 12 years old.
So this is an opportunity to make a difference in the life of a child. And we're saying, you know what? $10, that helps.
Whatever it is.
Share it on Facebook. That helps. Get it out to your friends. Tell the story about a young man who's trying to become a man.
Right.
And whose grandma is saying, you know what? I don't want to let him go. But I know it's for his best.
It's not about me.
That I let him go. It's not about me.
It's not about me.
So my daughter went to Haiti. And it was the first time that she's been to a developing country, if you will, and really experienced the poverty. And we didn't get to spend a lot of time with her when she came back. She had to get back to college and whatnot. So we only had like a few hours of. She got in late Saturday night, I believe it was, and we went to bed. And we talked a little bit, then went to bed. Next morning, had to go to church, and she would had to leave quickly. But I wish I could have been there more, because she's overwhelmed. I love the fact. I know inside of her right now, her head is going, "What did I just experience?" And for those that, and this is that moment of freedom, and people don't get this. She let me read her journal that she did that night.
Journal.
Yeah, she kept a journal while she was there. And I asked her, I said, will you please continue your journal as these thoughts are coming out?
Right.
Will you please write about them? And one of the things in the journal, she says, I don't understand how a child who is sitting on a pile of trash looking for their food, she says, these kids have absolutely nothing. But the smile on their face is undeniable that they are filled with joy.
And one of the things I learned, I learned two things. One, as an adult, I learned that children are resilient, number one. They have a strength that's unreal. It's a strength that's unreal. And then I would also say, growing up below the poverty line, people tend to look at you when you're really poor, like, oh, life is terrible and you're miserable. But actually, we were quite happy.
Right?
Because I was well loved. I was in a community, a great community. I had resources available to me that shaped the person I am today. Experiences that many people don't even have. But I wasn't unhappy. I didn't know I was poor until somebody said, you're poor.
And I think if more people understood, you can be filled with joy. You can be happy when you don't have stuff.
Right.
And it's not about having stuff.
It's not about the stuff.
It's not. It's
it doesn't
about
hurt.
The relationship. Right. It's not. But
it's not about the stuff.
But look what stuff has done.
Right.
Stuff has actually hindered our joy now.
Right.
And she shared that she went to a church while she was down there, and she says in the thing, and I'll get it wrong, but she says, I can't understand how they come to church bearing their soul before God with such absolute joy, not knowing how their children are going to eat. She goes, but they have such hope and they have such joy. And she says, I don't know what to do with it. And I'm like, oh, I love it. I love it, because right now in her heart, she's like, it's a wonderful experience.
Her perspective on life now has changed.
Has changed forever. And that is another one of those freeing things.
Yes, it is.
Where you take a paradigm, where you take a belief that you have that poverty equals misery.
Right.
No, don't get me wrong. Poverty tends to mean prey.
Right.
People prey upon the poor.
Right.
But it doesn't mean misery.
Right.
And we should be getting out there to protect the poor, not from themselves per se,
Right.
but
exactly.
yeah, okay.
But really, it's from the outside forces.
Yes.
Because it's the outside forces, whether it's economic and
Yes.
whether or not you don't have access to good health care, you don't have access to good schools, you don't have access to good food.
Right.
The things that would allow you to climb. I mean, there's a great painting that Tish showed me, and it shows crabs in a barrel.
Okay.
It's a city, but it's crabs in a barrel. And you see these little black boys trying to get out.
And everything.
And the crab, one crab is like holding on to this kid's leg. And then one kid is going over the wall of the barrel. And when I was talking about my grandson is when that picture came to mind for her, and she sent it to me. And I think that is it. You're in this barrel.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're unhappy, but those external forces
We
that
need
are
to
not
knock the crabs
allowing you to get out of the barrel.
And that's and if we'd stop thinking, for those of us who are living in the suburbs and we're looking into the city and going, it's all the people that, no, it's not. It's a few of the people, and yeah, there's some bad people.
Right.
There's some bad people in the suburbs. and then there's some people who absolutely believe the only way they're going to care for their family is to go sell drugs,
Right.
to go knock over the corner store,
Right.
because that's how they were raised. That's what they saw. Those are the same beliefs. Excuse me. Those are the same beliefs, if you will, that anybody watching this, anybody in suburban America or wealthy America would go, oh, they just don't. Why do they act that way? Well, here's the funny thing is, the same reason you act the way you
act.
do, because you have beliefs that you were brought up with, that you are convinced are correct,
Right.
and you are the ones hurting the relationships in your life. That's exactly what tonight's show is about.
Exactly.
That's exactly what tonight's show is about. And we need to understand.
Because something is making the suburban kid go into a school and shoot up 40
That's
people.
right. That's exactly
or
right.
kill their mother, father, sister, and brother.
And yet, all we want to do is sit there and go, it's somebody else's fault.
Right.
No, it's you. It is you. If you're hearing this, if you're watching this, it is you. You have to change. This world needs more people like you who are going to change.
Right.
Like me who have to change.
Right.
You know, you're perfect.
We have to change.
You're perfect.
Shut up.
All right, so I'll tell you what. Let's close up with one more commercial,
Okay.
and then we're going to go over to Real Talk 360.
All right. This is Najir Anthony. We're doing a fundraiser for him, GoFundMe. He's off to Hargrave Military Academy College Prep on Saturday. He'll be there for 7 years, becoming a fine young man. My little sweet pea. I love him. So we need your support. We need your help. And he's going to do great things in this world because he is very compassionate. He is. I have to tell a heartwarming story. While he was at Valley Forge Military Academy, there was a little boy there who watched a movie and began to cry for his grandma. Nigeria went to comfort the little boy because he was crying. And that brought on feelings about the loss of his dad. So they called me and he was crying because he said, my dad is gone, my dad is gone. Later that night, when they got him calmed down, he went to his counselor and said, he asked if he could have a special sleepover in his room so that little boy could come and sleep in his room. And that little boy was from the United Arab Emirates, which means he was really far from home. Mm-hmm. But I say that to say is that is Najir's character. That is his character. He was concerned about the little boy that was crying for his grandma.
And that is, you know what? If that's the kind of little boy that you'd like as your grandchild, or as your son, or your daughter, here's I get so flustered right now when I go out on Facebook and I see everybody complaining about everything. I see all the bad in the world and what they're using Facebook for. I've got to think. Let's turn Facebook into the world's biggest advertisement for good.
I've been on Facebook
I hate to say that.
for 3 weeks, just 3 weeks, and I feel like I should get in a tub of Clorox and clean my body.
Yes.
I'm ready to get off.
I'll be scrolling through. I'm like, whoa. There are some things I've seen on Facebook that, and a lot of this is going on with what's going over in ISIS right now and the young kids, that I wish I didn't see.
I know.
And I'm sitting here right now going, you know what I love about this ice bucket challenge? At least it's good. At least it's for something good. And why not? You know what? Let's just turn Facebook into the world's biggest platform for advertising good stuff. So if you see it and you can't give, share it.
Share it.
Share the good.
He's leaving Saturday. We need this.
And we know that everybody's asking for money. We get that.
Right.
But here's the reality. We're not supposed to be living for us today. We're supposed to be living for the next generation.
Right.
Our purpose is not to make my life great. Our purpose is to make their life great.
Exactly.
And if you can't,
we are the village.
We are right. And it's our job to leave that village as a city, fortified, on a hill, clean running water, healthcare. Right. It's our job to leave to the next generation something better than what was given to us when we got here.
Exactly. Not something worse.
And so now I guess I'll jump off my soapbox, but that's kind of where I'm at tonight. So, any final thoughts on tonight's show?
No, I will say again, I much appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's a very positive thing. It's also been a great stress reliever for me to be able to come on and talk every week with someone. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
It's starting to come together, and we'll definitely, like I say, I think next few months should be an interesting ride.
It's going to be fun.
It'll be an interesting
This
ride
is
to see
only
what
the
happens.
beginning.
Yes, it is.
It's only the beginning.
All right.
Okay.
Are you guys?
So on that note.
On that note, we're going to let them get back to the station that they abandoned, and we will be right back with Real Talk 360 in just a few minutes. Good night.
Good night.